The blade kissed his palm by accident, or so everyone thought. Blood slid down his fingers, dark against the silver sand, and the duel froze in a single breath. She felt it first. A violent heat ran up her arm as the runes carved in her blade, ancient, dead for centuries, ignited like dying stars reborn. Gasps rippled through the arena. The symbols were not meant to answer human blood. Yet they did. The air buckled. Knees hit stone. Hardened warriors, elders, executioners, her entire clan, fell as one, heads bowed, trembling, as if an unseen throne had just been claimed. She stared at him in horror, blade shaking in her grip. He was still bleeding, still confused, still human. And somewhere beneath the screaming runes, something ancient had awakened, and it knew his name. Silence crushed the arena. Not the respectful kind. Not the kind born of ceremony. This silence was wrong. Heavy, pressing against the ears, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The last echo of steel on steel still rang in the air, but no one moved. No one dared. Blood dripped from the human's hand and struck the stone with a sound far too loud. Drip! Drip! Kale flexed his fingers in disbelief. The cut wasn't deep, just a line across his palm, but it burned like fire. He lifted his hand instinctively, watching crimson pool in the grooves of his skin. Around him, 1,000 armored warriors knelt with their heads bowed to the ground, including the woman who had cut him. Sereth of the Ashen Veil, champion of her clan, bearer of the rune blade, was on one knee, her sword tip buried in the stone as if it weighed more than the world. Her breathing was ragged. Her silver eyes were locked on the runes along her blade, now blazing with a violent blue-gold light. "That's not possible," she whispered. Kale swallowed. "You dropped your stance." She didn't hear him. None of them did. The elders along the high terrace were shaking. These were beings who had lived for centuries, who had watched stars die and empires rot. Now, their hands trembled like frightened children. One by one, they pressed their foreheads to the floor. A murmur spread through the kneeling masses, old words, forbidden words. Oathbound, blood-touched, air of silence. Kale turned slowly, panic tightening his chest. "Hey, I didn't do anything." That was the truth. He had come to the Ashen clans as a contract fighter, nothing more. A human mercenary from a forgotten border world, hired to settle a ceremonial duel no one else wanted to risk. Win or lose, bleed a little, leave alive. That was the deal. No one mentioned ancient runes. No one mentioned prophecy. Sereth forced herself upright, muscles screaming in protest. The blade resisted her, humming like a living thing, runes crawling as if rearranging themselves. She had trained with this weapon since childhood. It had never once disobeyed her. Now it was burning her hands. "Drop the blade," Kale said quietly. "You look like it's killing you." Her lips parted. Fear flickered across her face. Real fear, stripped of pride and ritual. "I can't." The runes flared brighter. A pulse rolled outward from the sword, slamming into Kale's chest like a soundless ur. His vision blurred. For half a second, the arena vanished, and something else took its place. Stone pillars drowned in ash. Kneeling figures with broken crowns. A voice, deep and weary, echoing through ages. At last, Kale gasped and staggered back. The vision shattered, leaving his heart pounding and his palm burning hotter than before. The blood had stopped dripping. It was moving. Thin lines of red crept across his skin, drawn toward the glowing blade as if pulled by gravity. The runes responded instantly, blazing white-hot. Sereth cried out and finally let go. The sword did not fall. It hovered between them, suspended in the air, humming with power so old it made the air taste like dust and lightning. Every rune along its length rearranged itself, carving a new pattern. One Kale somehow understood without knowing why. A name, not his, but tied to him all the same. The High Elder forced himself to speak, voice cracking through the silence. "Human, what is your bloodline?" Kale laughed, short and sharp. "You think I'd be here if I had one?" No one smiled. The Elder's eyes were fixed on Kale's hand, on the glowing lines now etched faintly into his skin. That blade was forged to answer only one call. A call we believed extinct. Sereth rose unsteadily to her feet, staring at Kale as if seeing him for the first time. Her pride was gone. Her certainty was gone. In its place was something far worse. Reverence. You should not exist, she said. Kale clenched his fist. The pain steadied him, grounded him. Funny. I was about to say the same thing about this place. The sword drifted closer to him. The kneeling warriors began to chant. Not loudly, not willingly, but as if compelled by something deeper than thought. The sound wrapped around the arena, ancient and heavy. Sereth took a step back. If it chooses you, she whispered, everything changes. Kale met her gaze, fear finally catching up to him. I didn't come here to change anything. The blade stopped inches from his bleeding palm. The runes pulsed, waiting, and far beneath the stone, something old and patient began to wake. The blade touched him, not with steel, but with memory. The moment the rune-lit edge brushed Kale's bleeding palm, the arena vanished again, this time tearing away completely. There was no falling sensation, no tunnel of light. One breath he stood beneath an alien sky. The next he stood in a graveyard of gods. Ash stretched to the horizon. Towering figures knelt in ruin, their forms half stone, half armor, faces eroded by time and regret. Above them loomed a throne shattered down the middle, its sigils matching the runes now burning on Kale's skin. A presence stirred. Not loud, not violent, exhausted. So small, the voice said, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. And still you answered. I didn't answer anything, Kale said, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. You dragged me here. A low, broken chuckle rolled through the ash. Once you dragged us all. Images crashed into him. Humans standing against giants. Not warriors, but engineers, farmers, refugees. Flesh and blood-facing beings of living metal and starfire. Not winning through strength, but through stubborn refusal to kneel. A blade raised not to conquer, but to end a war no one else could survive. You're mistaken, Kale said. I'm not him. The presence paused. Then, softer, no. You're not. The ash stirred, reforming into a single kneeling figure before him. Taller than any living being, helm split down the center, chest caved inward. Runes flickered weakly across its broken armor. You are what remains. The vision shattered. Kale slammed back in his body, gasping. The air of the arena rushed into his lungs, sharp and cold. His knees nearly gave out, but he stayed standing, barely. The sword snapped into his grip. Not because he reached for it, because it chose him. A thunderous crack split the sky as the runes detonated in light. The kneeling warriors cried out, shielding their eyes. The elders recoiled as if struck. Sarah stared at Kale, her mouth open, hands empty. It obeyed you. Kale looked down at the blade, heart hammering. It felt impossibly heavy and perfectly balanced. The runes had dimmed, settling into a deep, steady glow, no longer burning, but watching. I don't want this, he said quietly. The blade pulsed once. A warning. The High Elder forced himself to stand, leaning heavily on his staff. His voice was hoarse. Rune blade, return. Nothing happened. Fear rippled through the clan like a living thing. That weapon is the Ashen clan's covenant, the Elder said, desperation creeping into his tone. It binds our oaths. Our rule. Without it, you knelt. Kale interrupted, lifting his eyes. All of you. Before I even touched it. The Elder's mouth closed. Sereth took a hesitant step forward. Her voice shook despite her effort to control it. The runes responded to your blood. Not command. That has only happened once before. Kale tightened his grip. And how did that end? No one answered. Because everyone knew. The last time the rune blade answered human blood, the Ashen Empire burned. Their gods were slain. Their conquerors vanished. The blade was sealed away, and the clans rebuilt their culture around never letting that moment return. Never letting humans touch it again. Sereth knelt, this time by choice. If the blade has claimed you, she said, head bowed, then by our laws you stand above all clan authority. A wave of murmurs surged through the arena. Shock, anger, terror. Kale felt sick. I didn't ask to stand above anyone. The blade vibrated, sharp and insistent. Sereth looked up at him, eyes blazing with conflict. The blade does not care what you ask, only what you are. Before Kale could respond, the ground shuddered. Not from the blade, from below. A deep, grinding sound echoed through the stone. Massive locks disengaging for the first time in centuries. Cracks split the arena floor, ancient sigils flaring red instead of blue. The High Elder screamed, voice cracking in horror. The vault. Kale's blood ran cold. What vault? Sereth rose slowly, dread flooding her expression. The one sealed after the First War. Another tremor rocked the arena. From the shattered stone beneath them, a roar climbed upward, old, furious, and very awake. Sereth met Kale's eyes. The blade didn't just choose you, she said. It unlocked something that has been waiting for you to return. The arena floor gave way. Stone screamed as it tore apart, collapsing into a widening chasm beneath Kale's feet. Warriors scrambled back, breaking formation for the first time, fear overriding centuries of discipline. Heat rolled upward from the darkness below, carrying the stench of old fire, and something far worse. Hatred preserved like poison. Kale staggered as the blade yanked his arm forward, pulling him toward the lair, opening as if the abyss itself were calling. Fight it, Sereth shouted, grabbing his shoulder. The moment her fingers touched his arm, she gasped. Stars, your blood. The runes on the blade flared in answer, not rejecting her, but acknowledging her presence. For the briefest instant, Kale felt something pass between them, an echo of trust not earned, but remembered. Below them, chains snapped. Massive ones. Each break sent a shockwave through the arena, knocking warriors off their feet. From the depths rose a shape so vast it blotted out the light of the runes. A colossal armored form, bound in shattered sigils, its chest bearing the same mark Kale had seen in the ash vision. Except this one still breathed. Its eyes ignited, red, not with fire, but rage refined over millennia. The devourer of crowns had awakened. The High Elder collapsed to his knees, sobbing. It cannot be free. It was bound by the throne-bearer himself. The Titan's voice rolled upward like an avalanche. And now the blood calls him home. Kale felt the words like hooks in his spine. Memories that were not his scraped against his thoughts. Commands given, oaths broken, a final decision made in silence while entire species burned. I'm not your master, Kale said, though his voice shook. I don't even know you. The Titan laughed, a sound that fractured stone. You ended us. You sealed me. You ran. Sereth stepped between Kale and the abyss, drawing a secondary blade she'd kept hidden. You will not take him. The devourer's gaze fell upon her, amused. Little Oathkeeper, you kneel even now. She did not deny it. Kale's hand trembled around the rune blade. The presence from the ash returned, closer now, heavier. This is the cost, it whispered. The war you ended was not finished. Only paused. Kale clenched his teeth. Then why me? Silence. Then, because the throne cannot rise again. But someone must stand where it fell. The devourer surged upward, tearing free of the last chains, its massive hand clawing toward the arena rim. Warriors scattered, weapons useless against a being that had devoured gods. Kale moved, not because he wanted to, because if he didn't, everyone here would die. He stepped to the edge of the chasm and raised the blade. The runes roared to life, flooding the arena with blinding light. Power surged through his arm, ripping a scream from his throat as muscles burned and bones screamed under the strain. I don't know your rules, Kale shouted at the Titan, and I don't want your throne. The blade answered anyway. A beam of force slammed into the devourer's chest, driving it back into the abyss. The impact shattered armor, sending fragments raining across the arena. The Titan roared in fury and pain, staggering but not falling. Sarah stared at Kale in awe and terror. You're channeling it raw, you'll burn out. Kale felt it too, his vision tunneling, blood seeping from his nose, the weight of a dead empire pressing into his spine. The presence whispered urgently now. You cannot kill alone. I never could. The devourer lunged again. Kale turned to Sereth, breath ragged. You said the blade binds oaths. She nodded, already understanding. Oaths stronger than blood, she said. Then make one, Kale said. With me. Her eyes widened. A human and an ashen? That bond has never. Then let it break something new, he snapped. The Titan's shadow loomed over them. Sereth knelt beside Kale, slicing her palm without hesitation. Silver blood spilled, steaming as it struck the stone. She pressed her hand against his. The blade screamed. Runes exploded into new patterns, intertwining blue and silver, human and ashen, rewriting laws older than their stars. The chanting returned, not forced this time, but rising from every warrior present. The devourer recoiled, sensing the change. For the first time, fear entered its burning eyes. The presence sighed, relieved and terribly sad. So this is how it ends, it said. Not with a throne, but with two standing where one once ruled. The blade lifted between them, blazing brighter than ever. And Kale knew, whatever survived this moment, the world would never kneel the same way again. The blade descended, not as a strike, but as a verdict. Light poured from the fused runes, no longer wild or screaming, but steady, immense, final. Kale felt it drain through him, not tearing this time, but passing, like a river choosing its course. Sereth remained at his side, her grip unbroken, silver blood mixing with his as the oath sealed itself deeper than flesh. The devourer of crowns howled. It was a sound that had once sent fleets into retreat and gods into silence. Now it echoed hollow, stripped of certainty. The runes along its shattered armor flickered and failed as the blade spoke in a language older than command. By blood not born to rule, Kale whispered, the words rising unbidden, and by oath not sworn to conquer. Sereth's voice joined his, clear and fierce. We deny the throne. The light collapsed inward. A single, impossible moment followed. Utter stillness, as if the universe itself leaned closer to watch. Then the devourer broke. Not exploding, not dying, unmaking. Its vast form unraveled into ash and fading embers. Ancient hatred, dissolving into nothing more than memory, finally released. The abyss sealed beneath it, stone flowing like water, erasing the vault as if it had never existed. The shockwave threw Kale and Sereth backward. The blade fell from their hands and struck the stone between them. Silent. The arena stood frozen, every warrior staring in disbelief at the empty space where a god-killer had stood moments before. Kale lay on his back, staring at the sky, lungs burning. He waited for pain. It didn't come. Instead, he felt lighter. Sereth pushed herself upright first. Her armor was cracked, her hair loose, her face streaked with blood and ash, but her eyes were clear. Free. She looked at the blade on the ground. The runes were gone. Not dimmed. Gone. The High Elder approached slowly. No staff, no authority left to lean on. He knelt, not in fear this time, but in humility. The covenant is broken, he said softly, and so is the throne. Kale sat up, wiping blood from his mouth. Good. A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the warriors. Quiet, uncertain, but real. For the first time in living memory, the Ashen clan stood without the weight of a blade hanging over their fate. Sereth picked up the sword. It felt like steel now. Just steel. She held it out to Kale, hilt first. It's yours. Kale shook his head. No, I don't carry chains. Even pretty ones. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. With a single, decisive motion, she drove the blade into the stone and snapped it in two. The sound rang louder than any battle cry. Gasps echoed through the arena. Sereth turned to her people. We kneel no longer. Not to blades. Not to ghosts. She looked back at Kale. And not to him. Kale stood, feeling every eye on him. The presence, the ancient, weary thing, stirred one last time. You did what I could not, it said. You walked away. What happens to you now? Kale asked quietly. A sense of peace answered him. I rest. The feeling faded. Gone. The sky above the arena seemed brighter somehow. The High Elder bowed his head. You are free to leave, human. No oath binds you. No claim follows you. Kale smiled faintly. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a long time. He turned to go. Sereth fell into step beside him. Where will you go? She asked. He shrugged. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one expects me to be ancient destiny incarnate. She allowed herself a small smile. The clans will remember you. He stopped and looked at her. No, remember this. You stood together. That's enough. She nodded, understanding more than words could carry. As Kale walked out of the arena, no one stopped him. No one knelt. Behind him, the Ashen clans began something new. Not a chant, not a prayer, but voices raised in debate, argument, laughter. Messy, human, alive, far beyond the world. Among the cold stars, old powers took notice. Not of a throne reclaimed, but of one finally, mercifully left empty.